What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this KT series. If you guys don't already know, the KT series is basically a knowledge transfer from me out to you guys out there, just so I could kind of give you guys my experiences, my tips, and things of that nature, so that hopefully it'll get you guys some success on the water. So this video is brought to you by barbcatchfishing.com. If you guys haven't already checked them out, that is an online resource where if you wanted to level up your fishing game, you could check out barbcatchfishing.com, where they have a lot of articles on different techniques, different kinds of gear, videos, and things of that nature. So if you're ready to take your fishing to the next level, go ahead and check out barbcatchfishing.com. All right, guys, so in this episode of the KT series, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite techniques to fish, and that is the free rig.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to learning.
All right, guys, so basically what is the free rig? The free rig is essentially a bottom contact bait where you actually have a free sliding weight that goes back and forth. And you know, some of you guys might think of this as an unpegged Texas rig, and we're actually, in this video, we're actually gonna go ahead and talk about the key differences in between a free rig as opposed to an unpegged Texas rig. So one of the first characteristics that you will see in between a free rig weight versus a traditional bullet style weight that I have here. So the bullet style weight is essentially that. It looks like a little bullet. It's a little on the longer side. You put your line through that little hole here and it kind of just slides back and forth like that. Whereas with a free rig weight, you'll see here that there is actually a little line tie at the top of the weight in itself. And essentially what that allows it to do is, because the eye of that weight, it has such a smaller surface area on the line, it actually allows that weight to freely move back and forth much more freely than the traditional bullet style weight here. So if I were to take that same exact bullet weight and kind of rig it up here, you can kind of see the differences in between the surface area that that weight takes versus the eyelet of the actual free rig weight itself. So that is one of the key differences. Now, another one that a lot of people don't really talk about is when you have that bullet weight on that line, you can kind of see that the weight is encompassing the line itself. So the weight is actually wrapped around the line in itself. So yes, it does kind of fall, and it'll allow that weight to kind of fall back and forth, but compared to the free rig weight right there, you could actually see that, oh, let me go ahead and focus that. You could actually see that the weight is below the eye of that line tie. So essentially what that allows the free rig weight to do, it actually has a majority of the weight towards the bottom, so it'll actually drag straight down as opposed to dragging to the side. Now, again, very, very subtle difference, but those little subtle differences can definitely make or break whether or not you are going to get bit on this technique. So the free rig is definitely something that should be in everybody's arsenal, especially during those highly pressured kind of reservoirs and highly pressured lakes and bodies of water, where if not everybody, or if not a lot of people are throwing a free rig, doing something a little bit different can definitely give you a little bit more success over those other anglers, simply because it is something that the fish have not actually seen. So going back over to the free rig, very, very simple kind of setup where you have a weight that has an eyelet, whether that be a tungsten weight or that could be a lead weight, any kind of weight that actually has a line tie there. So as you can see there, it has like a nice little circle for the line tie. If you don't have any of these weights and you have some of those traditional drop shot weights where it kind of just pinches your line, you could also use those, but you would just have to open up the actual line tie in itself. But definitely something that you want to do while presenting this kind of technique is having an open eyelet so that that weight has that freedom to slide up and down that line with as minimal amount of friction as possible. So going back over to the actual rigging process in itself, or the gear in itself. So you have your free rig weight there. And then from there, you'll actually go ahead and tie on your favorite hook. Now, as you guys can see here, this is a owner cover shot hook in the 1/0 series. This is actually one of my favorite hooks to throw a drop shot or a free rig on, simply because it has very good weedless properties. So I could actually throw this in and around grass, around cover, and this will actually allow me to get this bait in and out of that cover without getting snagged up. Now, you can also use any kind of EWG or extra wide gap hook, any kind of straight shank hook, any kind of worm hook, any kind of hook that you actually prefer. One of the things that I normally wouldn't recommend is having an open style hook. Now, you could definitely fish that on a free rig, but you have to be careful with where you're fishing it. Obviously, you don't want to fish that where you can get hung up on any kind of bottom structure or anything like that, which can, you know, it does exist, but majority of the times it doesn't. So I generally like to go with a weedless style hook here. Now, when it comes to the different kinds of baits that you could use on the free rig, because this technique is so versatile, the only limitation is really your imagination. So generally I throw out little creature baits, I throw out little hog style baits, I throw out worms, I throw out any kind of bait fish oriented presentations as well. It really just depends on what exactly the forage is inside your local body of water. So obviously, if you want more of a streamlined presentation, like let's just say for an example, if you're fishing it in and around grass, having something with a more streamlined, more skinnier profile, such as a worm, may benefit you more than, let's just say, a beaver style or a hog style lure. So really, it depends on where you're fishing, what you're fishing, and ultimately what the fish are telling you that they want to eat. Going back over to the versatility of this, you can choose whatever weight that you want when it comes to this rig. I typically start with a 1/4 ounce, and that's basically what I'm gonna fish 90% of the time, because I find that a 1/4 ounce is heavy enough for me to be able to fish this in and around cover efficiently, but also light enough so that it gives this presentation as natural of a look as possible. So one of the advantages of this rig is the fact that when the weight is at the actual bait itself, you have all that weight in your hand. So especially if you're trying to flip it or if you're trying to cast it long distance, the weight and the bait are actually together. And what that does is that it allows you to not only make more accurate casts, but also gives you more casting distance. Now, the magic when it comes to this rig comes when this rig hits the surface of the water, because what will happen is that weight is actually going to start sinking first, and then the bait will slowly follow it down. So not only do you have the compactness, I don't know if that's a word, but not only do you have the compactness of the actual presentation in itself, like a Texas rig, you have more of a floating, more natural presentation as you would if this was being fished weightless. So you have the best of both worlds, which is ultimately why people use the free rig, because you have the ability to not only fish this bait like a drop shot, but also give it that kind of natural presentation that a lot of highly pressured or finicky fish might be more prone to falling for. So definitely one of the things that I prefer to use in and around cover, or simply when I'm just trying to get bit. This is one of those presentations that when I am struggling, but I need to fish fast, this is the technique that I typically go to, because I could fish this very, very fast, cover a lot of water, but also present a bait in the most natural presentation as possible, while not just sitting there and kind of just waiting for it. So definitely a good technique when you are under a lot of pressure, or if you're just trying to get bit. Now, when it comes to the actual gear itself, I typically use a medium heavy extra fast action rod. Now this is the Phenix 7-1 medium heavy extra fast action rod. I have this paired up with a Shimano SLX 8:2 to gear ratio, and I have 12-pound line on this setup here. Now, having a higher gear ratio having a higher gear ratio reel is definitely important, especially when you are trying to cover a lot of water and you are pitching and flipping this technique in and around key areas. You want to be sure that you could get that bait in that area and then bring it back up so that you can make that next cast if you don't get bit off of it. So it allows you to be a little bit more efficient on the water, as well as you can catch up to any kind of fish that can possibly hit this bait on the fall, which is actually more often than not. You'll find that you will get bit as the bait is falling, and then you won't necessarily feel anything until you catch up to your bait and you feel your rod kind of load up here. So going back over to the rod itself, again, this is a medium heavy extra fast action. Typically what I would recommend is, depending on the size of the weight that you are using, either going to be a medium heavy or maybe even a heavy, depending on whether or not you're using those heavier style, heavier weights. But the action of the rod is what I think is going to be the most important. Now, even though this is a extra fast action rod, I typically would recommend that you use a fast action or a moderate fast action, just because when you are in close quarters, when it comes to pitching and flipping this bait, you want to have enough backbone to allow you to drive that hook into the fish's mouth, but also have it be soft enough and forgiving enough so that you don't rip that bait out of that fish's mouth. Now, again, I'm speaking in terms of pitching and flipping. So when you are throwing this, you could actually throw this out in open water and treat it as if it was a drop shot as well. Now, when it comes to that kind of presentation, I would recommend going over to a fast or extra fast action, just because when you throw it out there and you get bit as your bait is, 50 to 80 feet away from you, you want to be able to have enough tip to drive that hook into that fish's mouth, especially if you are fishing this over a great distance, whether that be down in depth or distance from yourself, or maybe even both. So normally this Phenix feather is definitely something that is more of a general purpose kind of type rod for me, where I could fish this with a free rig, I could fish a power shot off of this, I could fish a jerkbait, just basically a good general purpose kind of rod, which is why I like using this rod in particular. So all right guys, when it comes to fishing this, you can actually fish this in and around, again, key areas. If you are pitching and flipping any kind of key areas that you may think that looks good, so any kind of laydowns, rock piles, grass lines, in the grass if you want to punch through it, maybe even over open water. This is a very, very versatile presentation that not only allows you to kind of customize what kind of gear you're using with it, whether that be a heavier gauge hook or a different style kind of soft plastic, or even the weight of the free rig weight in itself. So very, very versatile presentation, which is why I love throwing it. So all right guys, so from here we're gonna go ahead and go to the on the water portion of this video, where you're gonna go ahead and see firsthand how I typically fish this bait. Again, this is something that I enjoy doing all the time. This is actually my preferred method over a Texas rig when it comes to flipping and pitching, just because it gives me the best of both worlds of having a compact bait where I could make those really accurate pitches and flips, but also give me that natural presentation of when that bait is falling. So, all right guys, we're gonna go ahead and head on the water. Hopefully you guys learn a thing or two, and I'll see you guys back here in a few.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are on the water portion of this KT series, and today, you know, going over the free rig, and basically what it is a free flowing weight, as you guys can see here. Free floating weight that can slide up and down a line, no stop or anything like that. We have a 6-inch Roboworm with a cover shot HD hook, and essentially what happens is when this bait hits the water, that weight goes down first, then the worm follows it down. So very, very natural presentation as it's kind of falling until it hits that bottom. Then I could pop it up and do the same thing. So essentially what I like to do with this presentation, now you can actually throw this like a drop shot where you just kind of throw it out and let it do its thing, but what I like to do, I actually like to flip it. Now this is one of my favorite flipping techniques, just because you have the bait and the weight kind of in the same area, so it's kind of like it's Texas rigged. So I could get very, very accurate with this presentation. I could get pretty accurate into where I need to put it, but it also has that natural fall to it that a drop shot would have, or maybe like a weightless worm would have. So you get the best of both worlds with this presentation. So you could definitely toss it out as far as you can and kind of work it like a drop shot, or you can flip it. I like flipping it. Obviously flipping is one of my favorite techniques, just because it's very up close and personal. Essentially what we're going to do, we're going to throw it out. As soon as it hits water, I'm going to peel off a little bit more line until it hits bottom. Give it a few seconds, and then basically from here just kind of work the bait. So basically the weight has already fallen down, but the worm is still kind of floating down. So that's essentially what I'm doing, is I'm either waiting for the fish to bite on the fall where he eats it without the weight, or I could work it like a drop shot and kind of just work the bait how I normally would with a drop shot. Is basically what we're gonna do this whole entire time. And when you get bit off of this, it's gonna be the same kind of bite as a drop shot, where you're gonna, once you get bit, or once you think you got bit, you're gonna reel up your slack, keep slight tension on the rod tip until you feel that fish kind of push back or pull back, and then you're gonna set the hook. And with this one, I like to throw at visual cover, like such as tules and things like that. Right now we're kind of in the middle of some grass clumps, as you guys can see here. We have clumps of grass with some openings, and I'm just tossing it into those openings in front of us, hoping that a fish picks it up or something. And this technique, since I am flipping with it, I am using a thicker gauge wire, but you can 100% use any kind of hook that you want, any kind of gauge hook that you want, because this is more of a finesse presentation, but I have just incorporated it into my flipping because that's just the way that I like to fish. I like flipping now. It's actually really fun. Something jumped up there. me see all this grass. Oh, there's one. Oh yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Let's get him out of here. Oh yeah, that's a good fish. Free rig fish, baby. Let's go. All right, guys, here we go. Free rig fish. Nice one. Look at that. Nice thick gauge hook here. He wasn't gonna go nowhere, but he wanted that free rig. That's a good fish. And that's a free rig, guys. That's a free rig.
All right, guys, so hopefully you guys were able to take away a few things off of this video here. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and check out barbcatchfishing.com for your online resources about gear, techniques, and baits. And if you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a like and comment below on what you guys want me to talk about. Now, I'm not the expert in every single technique, and I'm definitely not the best angler in the world, but I'll try to give out my experience with those techniques and with those recommendations, and talk about it with a first-hand experience, as well as talk about it off of first-hand experience, as well as some of the things that I may have learned online. So, all right, guys, as always, thank you guys for liking, subscribing, joining me for my adventures on the water, and I'll see you guys in the next one.